It always comes to this. More nice shit. Morning guys, back into another tattoo progress update today. Where I last left off, I showed off the session I had with Rick here on my, I guess it's the stretch between my my bicep and my forearm here, and we're peeling today, so it's 2.5 days after the session, so it's about par for me. You can see some kind of warning signs or kind of symptoms of peeling last night before bed, and the skin always kind of has this sort of dry, kind of crispy texture to it, and then it starts to flake. That's the way it is with Rick's tattoos. Terry's tattoos, they heal a little different. I find every artist I've worked with, their work always seems to heal a little bit different. Everybody puts it in so different too, right? But I'm not having hard heals with either of these guys, so it is what it is. It's just one of those things. I tend to heal between, 2 and 3 days lately. My skin is peeling, so a long heal for me is like 4 days. And before I forget to mention, I've really been enjoying the overall connectivity that this has provided, having this stretch done here. And this coming week we'll be heading down the arm on the inside. So yeah, should be another fun session through the ditch. And yeah, I think that's about all of it for that. This ditch, however, when we do it, it's one of the weaker parts of the sleeve right now, and so I think that having it kind of more up to snuff with where some of the lower arm is at will make a big difference, where the lower and the upper part of the arm are very, like, they're at the quality I want them to be, whereas the middle stretch, the ditch, elbow, all that shit is lagging behind a little bit. So yeah, so I had a decent little session with Terry this week. We did 4 hours and we got quite a bit done. So obviously I had my face done again, but I'm gonna have a whole lot to say about that. So before I get into that topic, I'll explain what else we did. So get the camera down here, and we did the big red guy again. Everything else is healed. These second pass ones did really well. They're not even dry anymore. It's like they weren't even tattooed last week. This has got very little pain to the touch itself, actually. It's almost as if we did nothing on it yesterday, even though we spent an hour on that section of my body. As soon as we left the area, the pain was gone, and kind of on to other things. We also tackled this little green guy over here, and the only tentacles that we haven't done the touch-ups or second pass on now are the big ones on my sides. And though I don't believe I need to do the touch-ups on those, OCD and due diligence is kind of on me to probably do touch-ups on them anyway. Just so that I can say that they're all second pass, they're all kind of touched up and good to go, but I don't think that I'm going to do those right away. If I do them, it'll be probably a few months down the road. They need the additional pass a lot less, where those ones on my sides were the best as they were. Even white and black on black, they were the most readable, clear, and bright tentacles of the bunch, so it's no surprise that with color they went as well. So yeah, if I end up doing second passes or touch-ups, that'll be kind of at the end of everything on my front, where I have at least probably 4 or 5 sessions left on my front, believe it or not, before I'm done with it this go around. I'll always just say this go around because it's always possible and most likely that I will do more there in time, but I took a very long time off my front after working on it for years, and I can imagine that if I do revisit it, after these sessions, it will be quite some time again. Bow and Rome, you know. I plan on doing the color and the surrounding color in the eye here. So like all of this stuff one more time. I've got a couple sessions planned to work on the background again, and then I've got a session on each of my armpits coming up. So that'll be probably 4 or 5 sessions on its own. And always need things to chew on, right? So, but this year it's been momentous in terms of coverage, and probably a little more got done than I even expected. Which brings me to my next point here. I'll talk about the face tattoo now. I wasn't actually sure when we'd do this, but I did want to do this for a little while now. I can't say I've wanted to do it all along because obviously I would have done it the way I have now a long time ago if that was the case. But it's probably been since I seen the reaction of the bright red that we did at places like my arm here, and we just did these highlights all over the place, more or less. Wherever there are big open fields of red, we did these touches of bright red, and that's Nebula red, the same red that's in the spider eyes, which is actually the first red on black we ever tried, now nearly 5 years ago. So that red holds up really, really well. Like these spots we did do again for the second or third time recently, but they hadn't lost any of the red over the years. And so I found that the overall brightest ink that we've used anywhere has been Nebula red. And that's for any color. That's for yellows, greens, blues, purples, reds, everything. Nebula red is the brightest one we've tried. And when Rick first mentioned it, using it on the spider eyes, because I said to him one day, what if we don't, because we were planning on originally doing, before I get into it, we were planning originally to do the spider eyes with white highlights, so it would have been black and white. And I had the wild idea very long time ago now of, hey Rick, you wanna try some red on black? And my initial thought was that he's gonna say, be like, no man, that's a fucking terrible idea, get out of here with that. But actually he was like, I've got an old highlighter red over there that I never get to use. It's too bright for negative space. It goes in too bright over negative space, so I'd love to give that a whirl over black. And that was a Nebula red. And so when I got into all this red velvet business, where I did so much red velvet kind of all over the place in my we'll call it my third bodysuit, but Christ knows it's much more than that. If I had to put a number on how many bodysuits I've had, it's way more than 3, but I don't really like to use that language as much anymore because I don't feel like it's helpful when there's so many variations of each bodysuit. When we first tried it, it went in and it was so fucking bright, even the first session, that it was just like, oh, this changes the game, right? So I knew all along that red Nebula was the brightest red, and it can get a candy red over black, right? There was never any question about it for me. It was like, oh, okay, bright colors are indeed achievable over black. Right there we found out. We found out the first time we tried. Like, it wasn't like, oh, we found out late in the game you could do... No, we found out immediately. So, what I wasn't so sure was if you could get, moderate colors that would work over black, muted tones, or like subtle things, right? Like, because like you would think that the only things that would show up over black would be like very, very bright. So it was a bit of a shock to find out, like when we tried, because the first muted tone we tried over black in any large quantity anyway was red velvet. Now Rick had done some things like earth green and some different like kind of mossy tones of yellows and stuff and things like this on me, but my chest piece was already kind of starting at that point, and we were using like sometimes 30 different inks a session, but it was in such small spans and small placements that like most people would be like, they'd be looking at green and they'd be like, can you do green on black? And it's like, because it wasn't like this giant chunk like what we did with the red velvet, most people didn't register it that way, right? So like you usually have to put a large quantity in front of someone before they recognize it as the thing, it seems like. I swear I'm not trying to be a dick when I say this, but it was like, we've already done these things. I don't know why you're saying this, you know? Like this chess piece alone had every color over black. Like there's blues, there's yellows, there's greens, there's orange, there's red, there's pink, there's black, there's white, like everything. That was the whole point of the chess piece. And because it wasn't in these giant like chunks that people could very easily react to, it didn't read as like any one color over black in particular. So it is what it is. I'm not getting too frustrated on the matter, but you need big chunks of things to be clear to people, right? So when we started doing the red velvet, it was like people got the idea that because they're these big chunks of red, that's the red that works over black, and you have to use that one, and none of the other ones work. And all the while, I felt like I was on the sidelines trying to scream at people like, no, we can do bright red too. And like people would look at that and they're like, yeah, but that's not much. And it's like, I don't know why the quantity matters. I don't know why it has to be a big fucking like chunk. But anyway, I liked how the red velvet looked, and it was a tame way to approach a lot of color for me, right? Especially where early on with my color on black bodysuit, it was like, obviously you're starting fresh, right? Even though we'd done a lot of white and black on black at that point, we just had color highlights. So I didn't want a whole bunch of bright color all over the place, right? I didn't want it, more or less everywhere. I wanted to use bright color as a highlight. Partly because I was so used to everything being so dark, I didn't really want to shock myself. And as I tell you guys often about face tattoos, though I don't respect that they're anything to consider, oh, well, that person's heavily tattooed because they have a face tattoo. I don't think that way at all. I think that's complete nonsense. For example, just in this stretch of my face has been tattooed more than most full face tattoos take to do. So I don't think of it the way that most people do when I see face tattoos. I know the amount of work that goes into every part of this, and so I see it differently than most people do. That would only be another few hours for me, and I just did a few hours on my face yesterday in between these tight groupings, right? All of this is small magged in. If I just wanted to blast my face black, that would take fucking no time at all. And for some reason, for most people watching, it would be this huge, huge deal. And it would upgrade my whole look to, or upgrade or downgrade, whatever you want to think of. But suddenly everyone would think that I was way more tattooed than I am now, which is fucking stupid. But people have short attention spans. It's like when Incro Alpha started with his face. The guy I featured on Remy Reacts with a huge monster Massacre face tattoo. I knew that was going to be the most reaction he was ever going to get. I said that in my reaction to it. He has done almost an entire torso since then, and almost no one gives a fuck. And no one has covered it, and it's barely going anywhere. It's because for some reason, doing that few hours on his face meant more than doing his entire body. And that's why I said, like, there's some chance that the whole thing never gets finished now because his dopamine spiked on that. He got the most reaction for that. And even if he does it, for most people, they'll never see it again because it won't be viral that he's doing his bodysuit. It just won't be. It's like the cat's out of the bag now. You started with the craziest thing for most people, and that got the biggest reaction from most people. And so in terms of the social media landscape, you peaked, and everything else is kind of downhill from here in terms of how it will trend and spread and be viral and these things. So, and if most people don't see it again, they're not going to look for it. Anyway, I got off on a little detour there, but I don't feel like that's too far from where I'm headed now. I didn't really want to make a loud statement with my face at all. I wanted it to be subtle. For anyone who's been following me for a long time, and I'll have clips with my old face tattoos here. These used to be stars. They got changed into black roses. I felt like I needed to upgrade the whole look, and the stars were pretty janky. And Lee had the idea and did that, my old tattoo artist Lee. And the idea was we were always going to do white and black on black with it, but he left the cologne on, so I later had Terry do that. Now, these haven't been touched up in a very long time, and they're holding up great. But they're subtle, right? Same thing. Like with my face, I used to have a dagger and a rose. I didn't really feel those worked for me anymore, so I had Terry black those out in early 2022, and we went over them with white and black on black. And then later we came in with the red velvet, which again is more of a subtle, darker red. And it was very intentionally done to not be loud, right? I didn't want to make a huge fucking splash with it. I kind of wanted it to be moderate. We did 3 passes on it over the last couple of years, and it was super solid. And it was the color it was meant to be. So for all this stuff here, someone might go, well, that's not very red, Remy. That's more like purpley. That's the color of red velvet. I have it on negative space, and it's the same color. Same thing. All the red velvet in here, that's the color it's supposed to be. That's not fading. That's not changing. That's literally what you get with it. So what I found was happening, though, was I was looking at the red velvet fresh and liking the way it looked more than how it looks healed in a lot of spots, not everywhere. But particularly on my face, I was finding that the muted tone wasn't really doing much for the white. And it wasn't really doing like it was color play. It was still the subtle red hints were better than the black hints to bring out the blue hints of the white on black. But I wanted it to be a little more dramatic now that I've gotten further into, full color again. And now it makes sense. It wouldn't have made as much sense to have bright red on my face when there was almost no color on me. But now where almost all of me is in full color, and some of it is very, very bright, brighter than some color on negative space even, it makes sense now, right? So we sat down and we did 2 hours of Nebula red on my face, and I got up and looked at it, and the first thing I thought is, holy fuck, that's bright. And this is why I always tell people to respect face tattoos differently than other tattoos, because it will immediately change the way you look always. It's not just like, oh, well, it's a slight tweak, whatever, to my living experience. It's like, no, in every outfit you look different. In every light you look different. Like to every person you look different than you did, right? So it's part of why I always say I probably will do no more on my face, but I'm open to tweaks. For me doing this, I made the argument the other day to my wife. It's like, for me, it's like dyeing my hair, which I did recently and hasn't come up on my YouTube yet to most of my followers. I'm expecting for it to upset a few people because for some reason, people really like my hair. There are people who watch my channel just to watch my hair, apparently. I've had that said to me. So, and I never really think about these things because I don't consider myself attractive or not attractive. I don't think of things this way. For me, this is all just character customization. And insofar as this tattoo was black, and then it was dark red, and now it is bright red, and will stay bright red, I have no hard time believing that if I wanted to turn this green, I could. So I don't think it's much different from my point of view than it is to dye your hair. Now, that comes in contrast with what most people think about tattoos. But I actually find it's harder for me to get my hair dyed than it is for me to change the color of a tattoo. And I am quite serious about this, guys. If I needed to do so for some reason, if someone put a gun to my head and said, if you don't change your face tattoos to green, your wife is going to die or something, I have full confidence that we could turn this bright red into green. And so when I do these things, there's never finality to it for me anymore. Like there is no end to what the skin will take, and there's no damage incurred if the work is done well. So for me, it's just like, it's a totally different thing than what most people think. I'm starting to think of tattoos almost in the terms of how women would feel, or people who wear makeup in general would feel about makeup. It's It's what you're wearing that day. It doesn't have to be what you're wearing forever. And though I love this bright red look, like I'm very happy with it. When it tames down, I believe it will look something like the red velvet did fresh. So that was kind of what my mind was on with that. And I already know it will piss some people off for some reason. And most people won't make it through this whole video, but it was a very well-reasoned, thought-out process like any other mod that I've done. And it was not just some random thing that I did. I just wasn't sure when I was going to do it. I knew it was going to happen for a while, and I'm pretty fond of it. It makes a bigger statement, and I'm ready to make that statement now. But my overall message is always to proceed with caution with face tattoos, because the minute you have a face tattoo, you have a face tattoo forever. I am thoroughly convinced that I can change this. I could turn it back to black if I wanted. I could turn it to other colors, but I can't really get rid of it. Now, people will say, oh, but laser. But no, but laser doesn't work that way. Because one thing you won't get rid of is the indication that there was a tattoo there. So once you have a face tattoo, you have a face tattoo forever. Whether you cover it or laser it, it will do permanent change to your face. So proceed with caution upon getting new work on your face. But for me, it's not as if I was unhappy with any part of it that I couldn't change it in some way. But anyway, yeah, super stoked with it. And next week I have a session with Rick, but no session with Terry. And taking the week off with him, give everything a chance to heal up and pace break before hitting both of my armpits over the next few weeks. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.